Throwdown Nation.
Here we
We
go.
are
Here we
live.
go.
Absolutely. We are live. It is a Monday, or not a Monday, but a Wednesday night. And we are streaming on Instagram, YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook.
Let's
And
go.
tonight it is my pleasure to have with me the Louisiana Hot Boy, Jamien Watts.
Do I have to have my
How are
entrance
you?
music play?
How are you doing tonight, sir?
I'm doing good. I'm on fire. No pun intended. How about you?
Man, like I told you before we went live, it's been a good day. If I were doing much better, there'd probably be 5 or 6 of me.
Okay, Shadow Clone Jutsu.
So we'll go ahead and get started with the first and most obvious question, and that is, how long have you been wrestling?
So, like we spoke before, it was a transition from the martial art world. So it'll be 2 years in May. My last fight with martial arts was at the IBJJF. I placed third in world. So I kind of transitioned from martial arts from April, and I went into wrestling, pro wrestling in May. So it's about almost 2 years.
Got you. Yeah, like I was telling you, from a number of years ago, I trained for several years in BJJ, and man, I love that art, and there is no better full body workout than rolling jujitsu with
It's
somebody.
mentally and it's physically healing. So, the best martial art. Don't tell pro wrestling, but yeah.
Absolutely. So, as far as the wrestling goes, who trained you?
So I started training at PCW in Conyers, Georgia. So I trained under Bill, Nalgesicism, Brian. Whew. Yeah, so that's about it. And we have all the guest trainers come in. So those amazing trainers train me with pro wrestling.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was actually at Turn the Page a couple of weeks ago and had a really good time. That was a great show.
Did you watch the Royal Rumble?
Oh yeah.
Did you see me get snuck by Darth Vader? Darth Vader kind of snuck me when I came out.
Yeah, I saw that.
I got to get my lick back. Coming soon. So stay tuned. Casa de Lucha. Every third Friday, every month.
Absolutely. And I've had Quattro on as a guest a while back, and actually had Sleepy, his opponent, that night on as well. And both of them are great guys.
Both of them are amazing. Like, I take a lot of notes from Quattro. He's a great mentor, and I actually perform a lot on his show, Casa de Lucha. Amazing, great with character work. If you want to learn character work, Quattro is definitely the guy.
Absolutely. So, speed round. Triple H.
Oh, GOAT.
Yeah. He has a mind for the business.
He definitely does, and I love how they picked someone to take over that has kind of grew up with the business, so he kind of know the ins and outs of it too. It's not like a complete stranger that would be kind of brought in. So,
gotcha. So, as far as the early part of your training, what would you say was the most challenging part?
Getting over, I'll say, like, the anxiety of performing in front of people, because it's different with martial arts, because it's kind of kill or be killed, and pro wrestling is choreographed, so you kind of have to know, you have to remember your spots and your opponent's spots, and so the fear of performing in front of people and then remembering spots would be the most challenging thing for the beginning stage.
Gotcha. So, have you been a fan of this stuff pretty much all of your life? And if so, what is your earliest wrestling-related memory?
I can remember my first time I laid eyes on wrestling. I grew up in a big family in Louisiana. So I remember I was playing with my cousins in my grandma's living room, and my uncle and my auntie was watching wrestling. So I stopped playing with my cousin. I kind of like sat in between them. I'm like, what are y'all watching? And I was kind of intrigued on what was going on. So they kind of like laid out the foundation. This is how this person like wins. They have finishers. They kind of told me the things. Then I seen RVD, and I was like, okay, yeah, it's instantly like I want to do this. And that's when my mom kind of put me in martial arts when I was 7 years old, because I couldn't get to pro wrestling then, so kind of like worked
Right.
on. So
Right.
6-year-old hot boy was, yeah, I want to do this.
You were the hot little boy then.
The hot little boy.
Yeah.
Little hot boy. Little flame, little
So
spark.
the ember. Yeah.
Exactly.
So at what point in your life, what was there a point that you remember that you looked at the TV and you thought, I think I could do that?
Ooh. Like I say, since I was 6 years old and I seen it, I was very intrigued of it. I always been an observant kid.
Mm-hmm.
And if I see something I want to do it, I'm going to do it. Can't nothing stop me. So I kind of knew from early on this is what I wanted to do. Growing up, I always loved anime and like Pokemon and things like that. But when I seen wrestling, I'm like, okay, this is it. Everything else is out the window. I was in other sports. I did basketball and I did a little bit of like baseball. But when I got into martial arts and like pro wrestling, the arts, it was like done deal.
That was it, huh?
That was it. I don't want to do nothing else. Perform, because I did acting also, and then martial arts.
Gotcha. And what a great way to combine your love for theater and acting and athletics than pro wrestling. I
Pro
mean,
wrestling, and then yes, and then your character, the theatrics of wrestling. So that's why I kind of like wanted to transition to the pro wrestling, because you can be theatrical with pro wrestling.
absolutely. Speed round. Diana Perazzo.
Who slept on?
Mm-hmm.
Slept on.
She is so underrated.
Under. She's giving people some of their best matches. I'll just leave it there. Like, she's very underrated, but she's gonna be the underdog. I feel like she's gonna have something that's gonna like sporadically bring her to the top one day. So pray.
I completely agree. I mean, I think one of these years, she is going to go on a run that's going to shock a lot of people.
People seen a little bit what she can do whenever Trinity was in TNA, but like she goes beyond. She's a great person to work with from what I've observed as a as a wrestler watching wrestling. She's a great worker.
Right, right. So away from wrestling, what are some of your hobbies and interests?
Who people ask me that, I'm kind of like, when I'm not actually watching, when I'm actually not actually wrestling, I'm either watching it or like writing in my journal like moves and things for my character. But I'll say other than that, it's anime. I'm very introverted, and people will never believe it because of my personality, but I'm very introverted. So watching anime or playing video games.
Gotcha. Well, speaking of that, like I said, I saw on your Instagram that you do have a love for anime,
I love
and
anime.
I have tried anime, but have not really been able to get into it.
Oh
Do you have
no,
any? Do you
my
have
heart.
any? Do you have any recommendations for something good to try?
See, my friend Edward Draven, and you interviewed him recently. He
Yeah.
never like got into anime also. So I'm gonna tell you, like I told him, the standard I'll say to get into anime would be Naruto.
Okay.
Naruto will spark your interest in anime. So I'll start with Naruto.
Okay. I will look that up.
I'm gonna quiz you next
So
time.
okay. So I know that for everybody, the dream is to wrestle full time and
Mhm.
and basically support yourself wrestling. So is it anything approaching a full time thing for you, or we talked a little bit about this beforehand, but do you have a day job?
I do. I work in the ABA world, so I work with children and teenagers that's on a spectrum. I've been doing it for 6 years. August 8th made 6 years. So that's kind of another thing I'm passionate about. Also, it's very intense, but it's rewarding at the end of the day.
Absolutely. And like I said, man, you are doing some very important work.
I
and
appreciate that.
and that is truly a beautiful thing, man.
Thank you. Like I said, it's rewarding. Sometimes I get beat up, spit on, pooped on, but I get clients that can't talk. And like within a few months, they're saying words and like won't stop yapping now. So I'm like, seeing that is just beautiful. So I highly advocate for ABA and autism awareness.
Absolutely. So you had mentioned that before we went live that you're from the Baton Rouge area of Louisiana.
Yes, sir. But I kind of grew up in like I was everywhere.
Right. Well, what is, I won't then limit it to Baton Rouge, but what is your favorite thing about Louisiana?
I feel like I based my whole character on Louisiana. I'm very passionate about where I'm from because we have like one of
Mhm.
the richest cultures in the world. Our accent, our food, our dance, our music, our holidays, it just goes beyond. And I want to be a big representation of my state because I feel like we have so much talent down there that gets underutilized. So I want to be the person to be like, hey, here's the beacon of light. Like I'm going to shine it on Louisiana because people take ideas from us and don't give us credit, but I'm going to be like, here, it's us. This is the talent. And I feel like I do a pretty good job at it.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you.
I can, your passion for Louisiana definitely shines through.
I tell
And
everyone, I know people get tired of me talking about Louisiana, but I don't care. That's my brand, Louisiana Hot Boy.
absolutely. So, something I'll mention to everybody watching this, if you have any questions or comments, put them in the chat. And at the end, we'll do a short little viewer Q&A session, and all questions and comments will be read and answered at the end. So let's see here.
And I also tell people too, people ask me where the Hot Boy comes from. I don't know if you remember back in the day, Lil Wayne had a group called the Hot Boys back in 1997, I think they formed. So I kind of took that, and in Louisiana, everyone's either a hot boy or a hot girl. So I'm like, it kind of came to me naturally, the Louisiana Hot Boy. And I love fire.
It makes sense. And also, when you think of Louisiana, you think of a little spice, So it can be fire, it can be spicy,
And it's hot
It's all.
every season. We don't get winter, we get cold front. So you got a weak cold front, and it's back 80 degrees in December.
Yep, yep. So they say that the best wrestling personas are yourself turned up to 11. So tell me a bit about in-ring Jamien, the Louisiana Hot Boy, and kind of compare and contrast him with everyday you.
It's kind of my story is very, very, very like inevitable. So the name Kaizen, I was working with a teenage client a few years ago before I started competing in jiu-jitsu. And I was trying to find a persona and a name for myself, like a stage name. So she knew I was to anime. She was like, "Have you ever seen the anime Jujutsu Kaisen? They do a lot of it's not jujitsu, but the name of it is Jujutsu Kaisen." She thought I'd be interested in it. So the way my mind works, I was like, "What does Kaizen mean?" One day I was like, "What does Kaizen mean?" So I looked up Kaizen. It means continuously improving for the better or good energy in Japanese. So I'm like, okay, that's a stage name. So I'm like, I need a persona now. The Louisiana Hot Boy. So I'm known to be naturally shy and kind of like reserved and like to myself. But with the Louisiana Hot Boy, I feel like I can be more comfortable, more energetic. Just like you said, my personality times 10. The Hot Boy is kind of like who I kind of want Jamien to be like, more confident, just more open.
Gotcha.
But all in all, it is definitely Jamien times 10.
For sure. So, speed round. And you potentially you may know this guy by two different names.
Okay.
Kevin Owens or Kevin Steen.
Oh, Kevin Owens. I'll say very diverse.
Mm-hmm.
He can do a lot, especially for his size.
Oh, for sure, for sure. And you know, for people that only know him from WWE and haven't seen his work in Ring of Honor as Kevin Steen, it's a whole different ball of wax.
See, I think
I
I'm one of those
mean,
people too, so maybe I have to look up some of his previous work because I know him from WWE as KO.
yeah, he was in Ring of Honor for a while as Kevin Steen, and he was a whole lot more violent. You know, he came to WWE with the whole fight Owens fight.
Mm-hmm.
In Ring of Honor, it was kill Steen kill.
Ah,
So,
he definitely still has that persona of like I'm gonna do and say what the heck I want to say. So
right, but it was at a whole different level in ROH than it is now. So
that's what I kind of
yeah,
scared of too. I'm like hoping when I do get to the big league, they don't like alter my persona and my moveset because I'm like I'm known as being the flashy hot boy.
so tell us about your very first match. What was it like? How did it go? What were your thoughts going into it? Your thoughts coming out of it? All of that stuff.
Oh my gosh. When I say everything that went wrong could have went wrong that day before prior to that match. And it was with Edward Draven. And we called the beginning of the match and like kind of the middle of it. So we was
Mm-hmm.
hoping I got off late. The match started at doors opened at 7:30. And I got off of work at I think 4:45. And with Atlanta traffic, I didn't get to the show to like 7:15-ish. So we kind of didn't have much time to like call a lot of the ending. So only thing I was doing on my way there was praying, please let me be first. Please don't let me be first. Please don't let me be first. We get there and look at the board. Guess who's first?
Mm-hmm.
Guess who was first? It was like, oh gosh. So we kind of had to improvise like the ending of that match. It's on YouTube, Kaizen versus Edward. But it kind of worked out because we have an amazing opponent like Edward that communicates well with you and work with you in the ring. It comes out as Chef Kiss. The match blew the whole show away and it instantly like became a classic. It went pretty well. It went pretty well. I had a lot of things to learn as my first match, but I say for my first match, I did pretty good for that.
Absolutely, man. And Edward's a good guy.
He's
You know,
amazing. He kind of like helped walk me through this independent wrestling scene because we all know it can be kind of toxic.
yeah. Well, any industry can be toxic. So,
Yeah, but when you always have a good support system like Edward Draven and others too, Trey Shaw's another great leader of like the younger generation, you'll be able to navigate through it.
Absolutely. So we've heard about your first match. Now tell us about your favorite match that you've been a part of.
Who? I kind of got two. Because my first match was Edward Draven, and then I'll say I had another rematch against him because he snuck me at the end of that match. He low blowed me. So it kind of continued our storyline. So I'll say our second match, and I'm only saying this because you can see my growth as a performer from the first match we had to the second match. And that's when I interpreted my lucha style. So you can see where I learned lucha and interpreted it into the second match. So I'll say the match with me and Edward Draven had back in March, I'll say last March. I did one lucha move in a crowd, like even backstage, everyone like lit up, like, oh my gosh.
That is awesome. And moments like that when the crowd is into it has to just be you're on top of the world.
It was amazing. Like if you go watch that spot, it's on my Instagram. It was the head scissors I did, which that move was kicking my butt learning it. But when I finally, it was just you could tell I was so happy and comfortable that I executed that move so perfectly. Like it just blew the roof off the place.
Awesome. So, what is the longest distance you have ever driven to get to a match?
I haven't traveled that far yet for a match, but I do have some upcoming bookings. Like some promoters reached out to me for like potential Tennessee bookings. And it's funny because they only seen my entrance. So they booked me off the charisma I had in my entrance. So
that's
stay
cool.
tuned. Yeah. So stay tuned.
So, there are basically two ways of preparing for a match. Either working it out with your opponent in the back or calling it in the ring. Do you have a preference as to how you prepare for a match? Would you rather talk it out in the back or call it in the ring?
Both. I have a little ADHD, so I'm the one that forgets the spots. Even in training, I will be in line and it'll be me up next, and I'm in my head like, Jamien, okay, you got it, you got it, you got it. Then when it's my turn to go, I'm like, dang, what? I forget everything now. But like I said, communicating in the ring and it instantly like kicks in. So both. It's always good to communicate in the ring with your opponent, also your partner, because it's dancing.
Mm-hmm.
It's dancing.
Absolutely. Speed round. Hangman Adam Page.
Don't shoot the messenger. I don't really know who that is.
Oh, that's fine. He's on AEW quite a bit.
Okay, I'll have to check it out because I like to research different like talent. So
he actually recently has had a fairly lengthy program with Swerve Strickland. I don't know if you're familiar with Swerve.
I do know Swerve. He's like
Yeah.
great. Yeah, he's doing his thing. He too in AEW.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, I'm gonna have to check it out then.
Absolutely. Yeah, he's he and Swerve are really doing some great work right now. So
okay, I'm gonna check it out. Because the last opponent I noticed that Swerve had a feud with was Daniel Bryan.
mm-hmm. So this probably really hasn't been something that you've had to deal with yet. But I'll go ahead and ask this anyway, and that is, if you were in a situation where you were working in another country or culture, how would you handle language barriers when interacting with fans or even your opponents?
That actually has happened to me a lot now. I train Lucha with Elemento. I don't know if you know him on the indie scene. He's like amazing, like capital A, amazing, Elemento. So, this is another favorite match. It was a match with me and Eric Draven versus Elemento and 3D Lucha Sabretooth. And this is the most nervous I've ever been for a match because of that language barrier. Elemento, he's mostly profound in Spanish. I'm like, oh gosh, in a match you have to communicate with each other. And when you're training Lucha, it's not much communication, especially if there's that language barrier. So what I must say, learning Lucha, because I train Lucha every Tuesday, you learn because wrestling is universal, right? So you learn Elemento teaches you communicate with the movement. So you just go with his movement. So that's how I learned to get rid of that barrier right there. So when he moves this way, you move that way. So you learn to communicate by movement.
Yep. And like you so eloquently said, wrestling is kind of a universal language in and of itself. So
it's universal.
So if you could only be one, would you rather be great in the ring or great on the mic?
Great on the mic. Character goes a long way. Character goes a long way, especially in WWE.
For sure.
You got to put the E in entertainment. And also, it's because I have an acting background, so I love showing character, connecting with the fans more with character.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll go ahead and repeat now to anybody that's watching this live. If you have any questions or comments, put them in the chat, and we will do a short viewer Q&A session at the end, and all questions and comments will be read and answered. Let's see here. Okay. I don't know that this necessarily applies again because you're still somewhat new to the business. but what has been your most unusual encounter with a fan?
Um, I don't think I've encountered anything unusual. I get a lot of fan love. And like I said previously, a lot of my supporters, I had a big support system before I started pro wrestling because I was really big on the jiu-jitsu scene, and then I did acting also. So they kind of like followed me to pro wrestling. And the ones I made organically in Georgia, it's always like a family. It's a big family.
Absolutely. So, do you have a preference between working heel or babyface?
I'll say babyface because I can do all the flashy moves.
Gotcha.
Not
Gotcha.
that that's all that matters, but lucha is very flashy.
For sure. So, can you share an example of a time when you had to completely improvise during a match, where something went sideways and you kind of just had to figure it out?
Like I said, it happens a lot to me. Not often, but like it does happen because I'm like, oh gosh, what is this spot? But when we learn to deal with it, because PCW offers like great training. So we learn to, even if you get a spot, you will never know. The fans will never know because we know how to improvise and communicate with each other in the ring.
Yep, they say, fake it until you make it.
Make it until you make it. Make it until you make it.
uh, let's see. Speed round. Charlotte Flair.
Woo! She's inevitable.
So, in terms of your in-ring work and your promos, who or what would you say are your influences? Yeah, and
um,
it can be other wrestlers, it can be pop culture, any of that. What has helped shape the Louisiana Hot Boy?
so other than Louisiana itself, a lot of anime characters. I don't know if you haven't watched anime yet. My Hero Academia is another one you should get into. So Todoroki, he's a character. He uses half flame powers and half ice powers.
Okay.
Itachi Uchiha, Sasuke Uchiha, they use a lot of fire styles. So a lot of flame characters in anime. As far as wrestlers, I'll say I grew up watching RVD, Kurt Angle, and modernly, not too modern because she's been around for a while. I'll say Mercedes.
Oh yeah.
I'm kind of the kid, the wrestling kid of Mercedes and RVD. She inspired
Gotcha.
me to do lucha.
Gotcha. So, do you have an all-time favorite match as a fan? It can be a match that you can have watched it a million times and it just never gets old, and there's always some new little nugget that you can pull from it.
It's a lot of RVD matches and a lot of Mercedes matches, but I'll say, ooh, you can't be an RVD fan if you don't name One Night Stand 2006 with him versus John Cena at ECW Arena.
Yeah.
And I'll say another one was him versus Tommy Dreamer, the title versus title match. It showed a good companionship, and then they got really competitive in the match. Like, okay, we about to get serious now. So it kind of reminded me of me and Edward. As far as
Hmm.
Mercedes, I'll say recently her New Japan run, she did a triple threat with Azumi and Hasuki, and I say that match, I've watched it. I'm ashamed to say how many times I've seen that match. Like it's chef's kiss from beginning to end.
Absolutely. It's funny. I've been a fan, varying levels of fandom, since I was around 11, and I just turned 55 a few weeks ago. So
Happy belated birthday.
well, thank you. So I mean, I grew up, in the territory days, saw the whole Monday Night Wars start to finish, saw the rise and fall of ECW, and ECW kind of came about right about the time I was finishing college. So I mean, that took wrestling in a whole different direction,
A whole
and
different direction. Like
and you know, uh, just based on his having created and started ECW, Paul Heyman is a Hall of Famer just based on that. But
Yes.
what that man has contributed to the business over the years is just unparalleled.
Pro wrestling in general, like that man is ineffable, too great to be explained in the words.
Mm-hmm.
And also, my fave was a part of that ECW revolution, RVD.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
RVD Mercedes really taught me a lot as far as like standing on your value and your worth.
Mm-hmm. So, and this can be present day or past. Who would be a dream opponent for you? Who would you love to work?
A lot of people recommend this too, and I think we will blow the roof off whatever place we're in. I'll say Carmelo Hayes, because we're like kind of a reflection of each other. So Carmelo Hayes, just to watch out, the Hot Boy is on the rise.
Yeah, I've really been enjoying this that series of matches he's had with Andrade recently.
Mm-hmm.
Those two have been putting on some bangers.
Imagine
I
a triple
mean,
threat with the Hot Boy up in there.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So, this probably doesn't really apply yet because, for one thing, you're a young guy, and for another thing, you're still young in the business. But I'll ask it anyway, and that is, what hurts right now?
I did training Sunday, and I'll say my neck hurts. I haven't
Mm-hmm.
been able to do like consistent training for a while because we had that oil spill. So they kind of have to like put a curfew on wrestling right now. So
Oh yeah, that chemical thing out
the
in
chemical
Conyers.
thing, yeah. So we kind of had to
Yeah.
like pause wrestling, like training for a minute. So, but I went back Sunday, and I'll say my neck feels like a stiff ironing board.
Yeah, it was funny when that happened. I mean, I'm roughly, 25, 30 miles from Conyers. But I mean, walking out into the backyard that day, everything just smelled like a swimming pool.
I
It
seen the
was,
explosion. I seen it.
oh, you saw it happen?
I was in Conyers because I went to training, and then I didn't know it canceled. And then I seen the smoke and all the fumes. I'm like, oh gosh, okay, yeah. So I seen it.
Oh, wow.
I was an eyewitness.
Yikes. Yikes. So, what is the most significant injury that you have suffered wrestling or training or even in jujitsu? Have you had any injury that you would say was significant?
I haven't had any injuries in jiu-jitsu, but wrestling, I'll say when I first started off, we were in training, we were doing a sequence of a sunset flip, from outside the ring, you sunset flip over into a pin. And I
Yeah.
wasn't landing on my feet properly. I was landing on my heels. So I actually
Mm,
had like injured my heels and had to get on crutches for like a few months. So that would be an injury.
wow.
Yeah.
Speed round. Kofi Kingston.
Ooh. Another underrated.
Yeah.
Underappreciated, as I should say. Underappreciated.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he had that good run a few years ago, Kofi Mania or whatever they
Mhm.
called it. But I mean, since then, I mean, he's he's on TV a lot. He's getting a lot of good work with the New Day and such. But I mean, I don't feel like he's getting what
Enough.
he deserves.
Yeah, like enough. So that's why I said underappreciated.
So, in general, what are your thoughts on the state of the business?
I say it's on a rise now. It's so many people training to be professional wrestling. So I say right now it's very competitive. So you have to do things to kind of make you stand out from the others. And most people think that the moves is what make you stand out, but having that character and that niche is what's gonna make WWE or the big leagues be like, okay, I want him or I want her. So the competition is very competitive now. Everyone wants to be a professional
Mhm.
wrestler.
Absolutely. But, one thing I'll say from the perspective of a fan, right now is one of the most exciting times that I can remember. And like I said, I've been watching this stuff for 40 years. But with all of the different companies, the different places for guys to work and hone their craft, and just the amount of wrestling that is out there
It's
is just amazing.
it's
I
amazing.
mean,
It's definitely, like I said, it's competitive. Like everyone wants to wrestle now. So yeah,
mhm. And unfortunately, there's only so many hours in the week to consume it all. I
exactly.
mean,
Yeah, when you got a
um,
full-time job.
absolutely, yeah. So, what is your take on the role that social media is playing as a promotional tool for wrestling?
I say right now we kind of have an advantage because most people are being recruited off of Instagram and Twitter. Like for instance, Mark Henry recruited Bianca Belair and Jay Cargill from social media. So it's easier
Hmm.
to get, I'll say, like noticed on social media now versus like back then that they really didn't have social media to be profound about. So it's how you utilize it. It's how you utilize it.
Absolutely, and that was how I found Edward, and then I found you through him,
So
and
it's like a chain.
yeah, I mean, everything is so interconnected, and it's really been exciting because I've been doing these wrestling live streams since early July, and right now I am booked up through November.
I
Uh,
seen
I,
that.
and I got my first booking for December earlier today. So it's really been neat because a lot of the bookings that I'm getting now are as a result of previous guests telling their buddies, hey, uh, drop Madeline. And I've uh, it's it's really been just so much fun doing these, and I've gotten to meet some of the coolest people, and I just love being a part of telling the stories of people chasing a dream, which is why I'm focusing on the indies.
I know I
Uh,
love that. The most amazing talent comes from the indie, like because you have that hunger. Like, okay, I have to work hard. I have to prove myself. Like, we don't. You have that hunger in the indie scene. Some amazing talent on the indie scene.
Absolutely. Well, you're still a pretty young guy, but knowing everything that you know now, if you could give any advice to your younger self, what would it be?
Stand on your value. Know your value. Know your worth, and stand on it. Don't let anyone tell you anything less. Like you are ineffable. You're great. Stand on your value. That's been the biggest thing.
And do you have any advice for any young people that would be potentially looking to break into the business?
Come in with an open mind and being receptive. Being receptive. Listen to your vets. Listen to people that's trying to help you. Just be receptive. Be receptive. Be a sponge. Take in all the information you learn and keep a journal. Keep journals and write down everything you learn from the pro wrestling scene.
Speed round. Eddie Edwards.
Ooh, that's another unfamiliar one.
He's a guy in TNA right now.
Yeah,
So,
I don't watch too much TNA in today's time. Like I see a little bit on social media, but they're great though. They produce like some great talent. Jordan Gray, yes.
mhm. So let's see here. So, do you have a favorite move? Something you just really enjoy doing? And on the flip side of that, is there a move that you won't do or you would at least rather not do? And that can be giving or taking.
Oh yes. So I personally love doing my head scissors. I think I have one of the most beautiful head scissors. You can go to my Instagram to see in the indie scene. But to other wrestlers, they love my Hurricane Ranas. So whenever I'm calling a match, they're like, okay, we're gonna do the Hurricane Rana that you do. So they always bring up my Hurricane Rana. Because I can jump pretty high, I guess, and make it the way I twist my body before it lands. The move I absolutely hate taking is a freaking choke slam. I don't want to take a choke slam.
Don't like getting choke slammed, huh?
I do not like getting choke slammed. You're getting so, especially when I'm kind of a smaller guy because I'm only 5'10", 188 pounds. So when I'm getting choke slammed by these freaking 6 foot plus dudes, like, oh my gosh, and some of them don't control you when you come down. Ouch. Ouch.
No doubt. No doubt.
Ouch.
I couldn't imagine being choke slammed. I mean,
I don't see how Rey Mysterio used to get choke slammed by The Undertaker and Big Show, and oh no. Oh no.
Because, you know, I know very well that those rings are not soft. They don't have a lot of give.
Plywood.
Yep, they do not have a lot of give.
Oh, and being 6 foot plus in the air, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So do you have any pre-match traditions, any things that you try to do consistently while you're getting ready and before you go through the curtain?
I definitely pray, like for injury, like no injuries, and for me and my opponent. But I also listen to music that'll kind of get me like in the zone. So prayer and music kind of helps me pre-match. Someone had made a tweet that went viral. It was like, people from Louisiana, they don't take pre-workout. They listen to Young Boy or like some Louisiana artist.
Gotcha. So something that we've done in all of these that's just been kind of fun is we've let the current guest pose a question for the next guest. And my previous guest was a guy named Jason Dugan, who's a wrestler down in Florida, and he is also the promoter and co-owner of Atomic Legacy Wrestling in Central Florida. And the question that he posed is, you know, you're operating in, you know, I won't use the F word because it's definitely not fake, but you're operating in an orchestrated, predetermined environment. So working in that environment, do championships and wins really matter?
Oh, yes, because when you go out there, whether it's training or doing an actual match, you're putting your life on the line to perform for these people. Like any little slip up, then God forbid it's over with. So yes, it's definitely worth it.
So since this is part of a series, do you have a question that you would like to pose for the next guest?
Ooh,
If you can't think of anything right now, you can always message me later if something comes to you.
Okay, yeah, I can do that because I have like a lot of gears turning right now.
That's fine. And do you have any upcoming shows or anything at all that you'd like to give some hype to?
We have a Casa de Lucha November 15th in Conyers, Georgia. Be there. Doors open at 7:30. You can get your tickets online. Come see the Hot Boy in action. Come burn it down. Commit arson.
Absolutely. Well, this Saturday on Peacock, we've got the latest WWE PLE Premium Live Event, Crown Jewel. It's actually going to be at 1 p.m. on Saturday from Riyadh, Saudi Arabia.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to go through the card real quick, and I want to get your predictions on the matches.
Let's
and
do it.
These matches are in no particular order.
Let's do it.
So for the men's Crown Jewel Championship, which is something that's specific to these Saudi shows. We've got champion versus champion. We've got Gunther versus Cody Rhodes. Who you got?
Who? That is a very, you know what I like about the Triple H era? I feel like it's very unpredictable now. Versus previously, you kind of like know, okay, this person's going to win. But right now, I've been getting my cap turned backwards a lot. Like, oh gosh, okay. So I'll say right now that Cody Rhodes might take the win.
Okay.
One of the top dogs right now. Gunther is amazing, by the way, but Cody Rhodes.
Yeah.
Gunther is like chef's kiss.
Yep. Well, and then we've got the women's version of the match. Again, champion versus champion for the Crown Jewel Championship. We've got Liv Morgan and Nia Jax. Who you got?
I feel like they're going to give it to Liv Morgan because I feel like they're moving in a different direction with Nia Jax with that Tiffany Stratton storyline. So I say Liv Morgan might take that win.
Okay. This next one, I feel like has the potential to steal the show. And it is a three-way for the U.S. Championship. LA Knight versus your boy Carmelo Hayes versus Andrade.
Oh gosh. Being realistically speaking, I feel like LA Knight is going to retain. So I'm going to go to LA Knight, but it would be amazing for Carmelo Hayes to get his title reign early on in his main roster career. So, but I'm going to go to LA Knight.
I could potentially see them letting either Carmelo or Andrade win in Saudi, and then have a rematch fairly quickly and put the belt back on LA Knight,
like a traditional champion.
Yeah. So I mean, my gut agrees with you. I think they'll leave it on LA Knight, but it wouldn't surprise me if they do a little quick shakeup and then maybe hot potato the belt a little bit.
Because Andrade and Carmelo has been in a feud lately, so it might be something where one of them gets like they're kind of feuding, and then Andrade comes sneak in a win on one of them. So
yeah,
we shall see.
You never know. Those multi-wrestler matches are so wild because the champion doesn't have to get pinned or submitted to lose the belt. I mean, so.
Oh yes,
for sure. Women's Tag Team Championship. You've got Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair versus Piper Niven and Chelsea Green versus Lash Legend and Jakara Jackson versus Io Sky and Kairi Sane.
Oh, when I say that one is so unpredictable. I must say I would love for Jakara and Lash to win because they've been doing, especially Lash, have been doing amazing things. And Lash has been like kind of like, I feel like she's been trying to like prove herself since like her NXT debut. So she's been doing great things, but it's either going to go to Damage Control or get retained by Jade and Bianca.
Yeah. Down the road, I see them splitting Jade and Bianca up and having those two end up feuding, but I don't know if Jade is quite ready for a singles run.
Not ready yet.
No. That was the thing, she had that long run in AEW, but she never really worked long matches there. They were all essentially squash matches until she was on her way out and dropped the belt to Statlander.
That's what she said too. And I think in one of her interviews, she said she really didn't have the chance to like have like a long match. But yeah, I don't know. She was trained by some really good people.
Yeah. But I do think she's got a lot of work to do before she's ready for a singles run.
Yeah, so that's why I feel like they might keep it on them for right now. They kind of gave us a preview of the feud between Bianca and Jay in the Royal Rumble last year, but we shall see. Well, this year we shall see.
Absolutely. The next match is an unsanctioned match. Bronson Reed versus Seth Rollins.
Seth Rollins is one of my modern day faves. I feel like he's like the modern day HBK when it comes to wrestling ability and like character work. I'm going to go with Seth Rollins.
Yeah, I tend to agree, but at the same time, though, the powers that be in WWE really seem to be high on Bronson Reed right now, and he is doing some great work himself. I mean, he's one of those big men that moves like a much smaller man.
Yes,
but has the power and the girth of the big guy, but the athleticism of a cruiserweight.
I feel like I feel like they might let him retain and further the like a feud between him and Seth Rollins, because who's better to feud with than Seth freaking Rollins?
Absolutely. And somebody, something else I'll point out. We were talking earlier about Kevin Owens and his days as Kevin Steen in Ring of Honor. Have you seen Seth Rollins' days as Tyler Black in Ring of Honor?
I haven't seen any of his pre WWE like work, so I have my research cut off for me.
Again, it is worth your time. Look up Tyler Black, and you'll see Seth Rollins before he was Seth Rollins. So,
I seen a little thing, like I seen a clip of him like when he did like a moonsault on some like a guy's stomach, like this bigger guy's stomach. I see that clip going around a lot, but yeah, the guy is great.
For sure. Next match, Randy Orton and Kevin Owens.
They haven't really been doing like pushing Randy that much lately. So I'll say just because Kevin Owens has a lot of heat right now, I think that might make him win.
That's what I'm thinking too. And Orton has been around so long and is such a legend. He can take losses and it doesn't hurt him.
Exactly.
So,
exactly.
Yep.
The legendary legend killer.
For sure. And the final match is Roman Reigns and the Usos versus Solo Sikoa and the Gorillas of Destiny, Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa.
Ooh. I kind of don't see them further in this. I'm going to go with Roman. I'm just going to go with Roman.
Roman and the Usos, huh?
Roman and the Usos, yeah.
Okay. Well, we are pretty much at the end of things, and Jamien, I want to thank you for your time. This has been great, and I want to take a look at the chat real quick and just see what we've got here. We have somebody in the chat on Instagram under the name Gelato J. And he is saying, what are some traditions celebrated in Louisiana?
Mardi Gras. Mardi Gras. Come down to Louisiana in March. It's around the same time as the Super Bowl. So the whole world flies to Louisiana for Mardi Gras. So I believe it's March 5th this year. So y'all will see the Hot Boy. Look for the fire. You will see me.
And he then, commented later on and basically said, "Stamp that."
Always.
Absolutely. Well, for those of you that have been watching this live, thank you. For those of you that'll be seeing this in replays and in various places on the web, thank you for that. If you like what we've got going here, continue to spread the word. This thing is just rolling right along, and I couldn't be happier to be a part of it. And I'll let you guys know what we've got coming up on Sunday. this coming Sunday, November 3rd. Can you believe it's November already?
Friday. I was like, what?
I know, it's crazy. So Sunday, November 3rd, 7 p.m. Eastern time, I've got episode 45 coming up, and I've got another Georgia-based wrestler, the wild card Dallas Cage. And then next Wednesday, November 6th, also at 7 p.m. Eastern time, I've got yet another Georgia-based wrestler, the
Georgia's
Big
hot right
Don.
now.
It sure is. The Big Don, Don Cameron. And I've got a bunch more coming, so keep an eye on my social media. And there's a lot of good stuff coming down the pike. And like I said, Jamien, I want to thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me. I love what you're doing with your platform. You're doing a connection for these indies wrestlers, and we really appreciate it.
And man, God bless you for your work you're doing with autism. And something I want to point out, sir, tomorrow is your birthday.
Yes, sir.
And just have the best birthday that you can.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you for having me again. I really appreciate it.
You're a Halloween baby.
Yeah, it wasn't supposed to be, but yeah.
Yeah, when it's time, it's time.
It's time. And I kind of like, it's a funny story of how I was born too, but that's another story.
Absolutely. Well, anyway, everybody have a wonderful night. I'll be back, like I said, on Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern. And in the meantime, everybody love each other and keep throwing down.
Be kind to each other. The world is already cruel enough.
Absolutely.